Hello everyone and welcome back to my Warhammer 40k guides. I am Brady and today I'll be teaching you how to defeat a Guilliman list. I've been asked this question plenty of times and it's a good question since to most newer players Guilliman seems extremely strong and almost impossible to deal with. So because of this and because of many requests, I decided to touch up on this in a quick video guide. So with that said, let's get right into it. Guilliman, or better known as Bobby G, is extremely strong with his reroll aura, and with his almost unkillable stat line, which includes a 2+ armor save, a 3+ invulnerable save, and only 9 wounds so he can hide behind the rest of his army according to the character rule. He also comes back from the dead once with up to 6 wounds, so even if you kill him once, he's most likely going to come back. And because he doesn't have 10 wounds, he doesn't degrade, so he still is efficient even on low wounds. He also hits like a truck, so if he does happen to make it into your lines, you're going to have some big problems. So how do we kill an almost unkillable primarch? And the quick answer is, you don't. At least not for most armies. I say in most armies because you can aim to kill him with some armies because they have access to spells or abilities that cancel invulnerable saves, which is a big weakness that Bobby G has. If you play an army that has access to one of these spells like Null Zone or Warp Time, you can get rid of the Primarch's invulnerable save, and then with high strength and AP weapons like Last Cannons or Power Fist, you can then annihilate Guilliman. This is probably the most situational way to deal with Bobby G early, because if the Ultramarine player has a good screen, this isn't really possible. This situation only works when Guilliman is alone, or if your opponent didn't screen properly. So because of this, I wouldn't say this is the most efficient way to deal with him. Instead, it's just one of the ways, so I mentioned it. And instead, I would use one of the other strategies I'm about to mention. Another more efficient way to deal with Guilliman is to kill all of his friends, also known as the units he's buffing. Bobby G is a 385 point model that's only uses are rerolls and the fact that he's a beast in close combat. If you kill everything that is making use of the rerolls, then that part of him is now useless. And if you screen well against him or play keep away from him, you stop him from getting into combat with your lines, which then renders the other great part of his kit as useless, essentially turning Bobby G into the most expensive objective holder of all time. So the idea is to shoot down the units he is buffing first, and then either target Bobby G or other high priority units depending on what the situation is. More often than not though, when a Bobby G list loses, you can look at the board at the end of the game and see the same thing every time. And that is all of the Ultramarines are dead except for Bobby G, who's running around alone trying to kill as much as possible. Another way to beat a Bobby G gunline is to play to the mission. You have probably heard me say this a few times in my videos, but I don't think I've ever fully explained what playing to the mission is. Playing to the mission means you're trying to win the game by points, which usually equates to getting more objectives than your opponent, and doesn't necessarily mean going all out or trying to table your opponent. Bobby G lists normally like to stay still, or they move out together in a big bubble to keep the reroll aura on as much as possible, essentially treating their whole army as one giant unit. This gives your army a chance to spread out and capture as many objectives as possible, meaning you can win the objective game even if your units aren't doing much damage themselves. Sure, you always want to aim at doing some damage, but sometimes it's not the case, and instead you try to win on the mission by having better board control by holding more objectives. If you're playing an army like Orcs, you can aim to tie up everything the Ultramarine player has, while you also send some Grots to run out and grab objectives. The Ultras can always leave combat and still shoot at -1, well at least the infantry can because of their chapter tactic, but it's still better than letting them shoot for free, especially if you killed some during your charge. You'll probably look like you're losing based off of model count, but it's victory points that ultimately decide a game, so do everything in your power to max out your points while trying to restrict the amount of points the Ultramarine player can get. This can be done by taking up more objectives than them. It can also be done by targeting the weakest units so you get more kills than them when talking about an ITC mission. Or if they're about to kill a blob that's going to get them a couple of points, you can pull that blob away and hide it. Just try to deny them as many points as possible while gaining as many points as yourself. This can be said about every army and in every game, but sometimes playing against certain armies, this is the main strat you'll have to go to in order to win the game. Especially if you realize that their list is better or stronger than yours is, but if you have the numbers, you can definitely win on board presence. So those are the 3 strategies I would use to defeat a Guilliman list. Death Hex or Null Zone him if he gets too close, or kill all of his friends and render his reroll aura useless, or play to the mission and utilize board control since the Ultramarine army wants to stay still or move out together in a blob, meaning they won't be able to grab as many objectives as an army that can spread out. A last piece of advice when going against Bobby G is never take Kingslayer as one of your secondaries when playing an ITC mission. Sure, on paper you can get 4 max points from it, but realistically, you're probably not going to kill G-Man. Like I mentioned earlier, most games where a Guilliman list loses, the table at the end of the game has 0 Ultramarines left other than Guilliman himself, because the opponent utilized the kill all of his friends strategy and left Bobby G alone to try to win the game by himself, which is damn near impossible. Never take Kingslayer on Bobby G, because the vast majority of the time, Bobby G will be the only thing left alive by turn 6 for the Ultramarine player. So I would take other secondaries that don't necessarily revolve around killing an unkillable unit. So that about covers everything for this video. If you have any more questions, please leave a comment down below and I will try to help you out as best as I can. I would like to inform you guys though that I am no longer helping build personalized lists in the comments. I have been getting dozens of comments and personal messages of people wanting direct help with personalized lists, and with how fast the channel is growing, I don't have the time to help everyone without hurting my schedule. So because of this, I am limiting personalized list building for my patrons only. In the Almost Pro Gaming Patreon Discord channel, we have a chat room dedicated to list critiquing, where I personally go over every list and help my patrons make a personalized list to play with that can stand a chance at competitive play. I have to take priority in dedicating my time to helping my patrons, since they literally keep the channel going through their donations. And although I would love to help everyone, it's not realistic for me to do so, since making a personalized list takes a good portion of time, especially when I have to explain how to play the list properly as well. So because of this, I am only going to create custom lists for my patrons. However, if you still have any generic questions that can be answered quickly, I will always do so in the comments. It's just list building itself that takes a tremendous amount of time and effort, which I just don't have now with how big the channel is getting and with how many requests I receive on a daily basis. So with that said, if you would like to become a patron to either support the channel or to get help with list building, the link is in the description and should be on screen as I mention this. So come check it out. I would love to help all of you guys out. I would just like some help in return, and I don't think that's too much to ask. With that said, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already for more Warhammer 40k content. Thanks again for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one. Happy wargaming.